That's Koforidua, where the 67th Independence Anniversary celebration is happening. But we'll come back to that. Let's have a conversation with young, brilliant minds on the Ghana we want. I'm joined in the studio by Chirema Opong Daniel, NUGS President, and Nazir Sahid, who is the Executive Secretary of NUGS. Gentlemen, okay, it's Chirema Opong Daniel.
Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
I like how traditional you're looking.
Yeah.
It is Ghana month. Yeah. Does it have to be a special day before we adorn ourselves in a traditional
not necessarily,
way?
but we want to prove to the world that indeed we have good staffs that we, at a point you need to be putting on for the world to see that indeed Ghana has good staffs within.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about Ghana, the Ghana we want. Yesterday I was out speaking to some young people and I was asking them, is this the Ghana you want? What Ghana do you want? So let me start with that question. Is this the Ghana you want?
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity once more. I will extend greetings to the over 12.5 million Ghanaian students we lead over. I think today is a special day and I want to wish all of us a happy Independence Day. I think for the past few years or for the past 67 years, Ghana has seen a lot of changes happening with regards to our education, with regards to our healthcare, with regards to even political stability and all that. And yet, I'm very optimistic. There are a lot of things that needs to happen, despite the improvement that we've seen from the days of Kwame Nkrumah even to this day. Even those times, we wouldn't have been having this kind of serene environment, having political conversation. If it goes against an individual, you send army officers in and they destroy the whole place. But at a point, you're having this political stability, you have this serenity to even voice out most of the things we want to do. Amidst all these strides that the country has achieved, I think there's a lot more that we need to do, especially when it comes to even the youth, because looking at statistics, the youth form a huge part of this country. And at a point, if any country that will want to develop their various sectors and even uplift it, we would have to strategically or even intentionally develop our youth such that even when the old ones are churning out, the young ones to be equipped enough to take over the country as well. So I think there are a lot of things that we need to change, especially as an educationist or even as a student that leads or presides over a colleague student in this country. I think I'm much focused on our educational sector, because I feel there are a lot of things that needs to be done. If the educational sector is well managed, if the proper measures are put in place, we'll be able to curb one, unemployment. We'll be able to curb two, the infrastructural challenges in our educational sector. We'll be able to curb three, the funding and other issues affecting our educational sector. I don't know, as the conversation proceeds, I will list most of the things that needs to be worked on as even youth in this particular country.
What about you, Said? What kind of Ghana are you looking forward to?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I would also use the opportunity to reiterate unflinching commitment to the over 12.5 million Ghanaian students. So importantly, as President said, Ghana over the years has seen significant steps in our development since the times of Nkrumah 67 years ago. And unwavering, there's still room for development. There are things that can be done. A Ghana where we see a thriving economy reflecting in our GDP, a Ghana where there's food security, a Ghana where there's free compulsory and then quality education for our youth, a Ghana where there are jobs, a thriving economy. There's more to be done. So I believe regardless of our position here as a country, there's still more to be done. And even as we sit on the bench representing the educational front of our students, we still believe that there are a lot of things that has to be done to accelerate the development of our country.
Right. So we know that because you mentioned unemployment, the current unemployment rate is around 14.5, they're about 14 point something percent. And we are churning out over hundreds of thousands of students, graduates every year, but the system does not have the facilities to absorb all these graduates. Being the leaders of, the students in this country, what do you think should be done differently to change the narrative, especially when it comes to youth development and unemployment in Ghana?
All right, so issues of unemployment has been one of our huge cankers affecting our front. Each and every day I'm getting calls from various students who are done with school on how to even get places to even work. Because what is the essence of going?
You are evidence to unemployment.
Yeah.
Oh, when did you graduate school?
Last year. Last 2 years. Right. I was my service last year.
And you don't have a job?
Absolutely.
President.
So we are completing school and then you get no job. We're having a lot of people who are completing school and then even finding job becomes problematic. Each and every year, universities are churning out over getting to 50,000 plus students. Yet when you complete, there's no job. This is a cause for alarm because these students, after sitting home for quite some time, becomes very vulnerable. And this causes an alarm, and that's the main reason. And just last week, we went to the National Security Minister to have discussions on even they see something, say something. Because when these students have nothing doing, they are staying idle in the house, it opens the opportunity for other groups to even come, the Al-Qaeda groups and all these groups to come and invest in these idle youth who has nothing doing. And this is linked to a lot of the politicization of government policies. Recently, I saw a flyer on employment ongoing with civil servants.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of our youth, we apply, but getting it becomes very, very problematic. All is linked to the fact that we've politicized our whole systems. And if this politicization continues, then in the coming days, there will be a cause of alarm if the necessary measures are not put in place to help absorb our youth after enriching them with a lot of knowledge in the various universities. They come out and there's nothing happening. So it has become a new normal where most of our youth or most of our students will complete school, and right after completing school, they will be there doing nothing. They would have to go and read their first masters. After reading their first masters, has nothing done, read second masters. After doing second master, read third master. So you see one young student with over more than 4 master degrees. Why? Because they have nothing doing and they can't just sit home ideally. That is even with individuals who have the source of funding. What of all the others who have no source of funding? They'll just be sitting home. Anytime an opportunity comes, be it good, be it bad, as far as it's giving them money, they'll just involve themselves in it. We, on a normal day, we commend the government for even putting in 1 or 2 effort in absorbing most of our youth, but we're having a chunk of them who are not having any other job, and they are just in the house, always begging for money and all these kind of things. I think it's a threat to our national security.
Do you think it's more a case of, I mean, we know that the systems aren't there to absorb all these graduates that we're churning out, but perhaps is it because we are not as industrious as we should be? Are we just waiting for government to provide these non-existent jobs? Because there was a feature 2 or 3 weeks ago on a guy who was a first-class graduate from one of Ghana's universities and was checking blood pressure and sugar levels for market women because he had to survive. And he'd done that for 10 years. And he's been able to, I mean, live off that some way. I don't know whether it was sufficient or not, but he was able to live off that for 10 years. Do you think, Said, that it's our problem that we are not as industrious as we should be, so that we don't wait on the government to provide these non-existent jobs for us?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, based on that assertion, one may ask that is our system or is our economy really one that supports the existence of SMEs? Is our system one that is going to support the existence of these small businesses? Obviously not. We do not have a thriving economy. We do not have systems that support small businesses. We have Maslow and other institutions that have been established to support these kind of institutions and these small startups. But believe you me, the systems are put in place. Just as President said, a lot of things in this country have been politicized. So if you do not have access to a particular group of people or a particular area or agency, you are not going to get the access to these resources. Beyond that, our economy is not really an inviting one for young businesses because already there's not much money in the system and you do not have the ability to capitalize on the system or on the market to thrive as a young business person. In my time, somewhere last year, we trained over 50 SMEs, people who are interested in starting SMEs. But you come back to the big problem where source of funding and what have you. We do not start these young, small, medium-scale enterprises on very small budgets because definitely you are going to fall down along the line. So we believe the system is not wholly inviting and it's not wholly welcoming to SMEs. So it's not the fault of these young and upcoming ones that they are not much industrial. When you go online, when you open your WhatsApp statuses, you see a lot of young people trying to start businesses. And you ask yourself, is it really going to thrive? Is the system really going to support it? And that becomes a big question on us and on our people who are out there.
You both mentioned that the system has been politicized, but we know that these political parties or political entities and individuals, they have their tenterhooks everywhere, including NUGS. Also, we hear, I know you won't confirm or deny that, but you do have opportunities to engage with our leaders as and when you get these opportunities. Are you able to actually speak on behalf of the majority of the youth and table the real situation on ground? And if so, do they hear you? Or is it just a matter of you are in the position, you're in a leadership position, you say what you need to say so that you gain some sort of favor from these leaders? Which is it?
All right,
are you able to actually communicate the real situation on ground?
All right, so the first thing I will clearly say is that I'll debunk this. NUGS is a non-partisan group, and on any day else I always put it.
Right.
MPP, NDC cannot influence the decisions of the National Union of Ghana students. We represent the actual happenings on the ground, and we will always do. You see, one of the key things I've always been saying is that there's this popular generalization that says that the future is youth. But critically, there have not been any outline measures that has been put in place to accommodate the youth in the future we seek to see. You see, the National Union of Ghana students harbors the almost huge numbers of our youth in the country. But trust me, if you are having organizations like the National Youth Authority, you're having even the Ministry of Youth and Sports, you're having organizations like Youth Employment Agencies, which has no member of even the youth represented on these boards. It clearly tells you that
there's no youth.
There's no youth, as in even a representative, let's say, from the National Union of Ghana students on that board.
Okay.
It clearly tells you that at a point we don't really value us. And we are the grassrooted entity in Ghana. We are one of the grassrooted entity in the country. Whatever thing that is happening deep down, we know. Whatever things, the challenges our students who complete school are going through, we know. Sometimes the information they have at their end is quite distinctive from the information we have at our end. Because they are dealing with PR systems and all that, and at a point, their interventions and subventions doesn't go deep down into our youth, or even the general or the actual issues affecting our youth down there. So if you're having these bodies like even Ghana AIDS Commission, Youth Employment Agency, National Youth Authority, even the Ministry of Youth and Sport has no youth representative on it. What are you trying to do?
What are you doing about it? Obviously, your position goes beyond students. You're youth leaders. What have you done so far to ensure that your voices are heard? You also fight for a place in these places so that they don't count you out, so that we don't sit, all three of us are young people, we are you, so that we don't sit and lament about how they're not involving us. What are you doing with your position?
For lamenting, we've been lamenting for days, but I think it will be very imperative and also incumbent on our leaders leading this country. I've seen platforms where we've given even few young ones, we head in some of the ministries and all that. But it's very important that as we are lambasting, we can't always be lambasting, we can't always be castigating them and all this. At a point, they should also critically sit down and know that amidst all the things we are doing, we will need some of these young ones in there. We need some of these young ones to be part of the decision-making body. When that happens, you could clearly know that the voices of the youth are highly represented. It happens even in our UN groups, which find themselves in Ghana, and in all the other groups. I don't know. Ghana, we are now gradually gravitating towards the essence of even involving the youth in most of the decision-making body. You see, when it comes to our educational sector, let me just touch small.
Body? Just to clarify.
Yeah, the decision-making as in the ones I've made mention of. We should find the youth be represented on their boards. You should find a youth representative like we have on Get Fund, that the National Union of Ghana Students or even Genote is represented on Get Fund. Okay. It clearly tells you that they want to involve the youth in there. Now, all the educational policies, all the employment-related policies we are rolling out, we are rolling out for the youth. So if there's no member of the youth, a grassrooted member, of course, who is not represented, to really bring out the actual happenings on the grounds, then how then do we even bring up policies for these young ones coming up? So we'll end up bringing up a whole lot of policies, but it's not affecting the individual or that Mohammed Salifu in the northern region who really needs this intervention. Now, let me just touch a little on even our educational system. As we speak, our nursing trainees, almost 12 months to 18 months, they've never received any allowances. And nobody's doing anything about it. Not that they don't know, they really know. If we initiated something like a nursing training allowance, why then don't you pay them? So now these students go through these agonies and still complete school and still not get posted or even not get no job. So you sit back and it's a whole lot of heartbreak. So you sit back and anybody that comes with any juicy opportunity, regardless of it being negative or positive, you just roll on. Which I always say is a threat to national security. At a point, the National Security Ministry should be able to, if necessarily collaborate with the National Union of Ghana students to put out a lot of education to our youth. Because most of them are stranded as we speak. Not to, and when you speak about this issue, you see that you are connected to Party A or Party B. But today we are speaking as students of the National Union of Ghana students who are not necessarily being influenced by any party or so. My students are there, they are having no jobs. I don't need Party A to tell me to go and speak to the world that my students are suffering and are having no job. I don't need Party A to come and tell me my students are sitting on the street studying. I don't need Party A to come and tell me that the main statutory funds that funds education in this country, which is GET Fund, has been capped. An amount of 7 billion gathered, only 3 billion is given to the educational sector to fund our education. How then will you be able to even pay student to loan trust fund? How then will you be able to even pay teacher training allowance? How then will you be able to even pay nursing training allowance? Our students are sitting under trees. If we are looking at employment, we should be looking at even questionings regarding our curriculum. If you're able to change the curriculum, it gives us a different mindset on how we should live our lives even as students, because we don't have to necessarily be absorbed by the government totally. If you're having a different mindset, the curriculum has been changed. I love how the Minister of Education is introducing STEM education and all that. If all these introductions are done, and I'm done with school, and I don't have a job, because it's at the back of our mind. Right after you are done with school, you'd have to go and sit in the air conditioner and be working in a very juicy work. But if there's a different change in our educational sector, because how we think is highly linked to the systems that are being used in our educational sector. So if they want the youth to have a different mindset of doing things, then the educational sector, the curriculum should be adjusted. If there's an adjustment in there, there will be an adjustment in the way we think. So when we come out from the various institutions, how we do our things will be quite different. If that is done, then we can look at funding. Because once you've changed our mindset, you would have to set up funds to fund our ideas so that we can be coming up with good things. In coming up with good things, then we should get Ghanaians also patronizing the good things their own Ghanaians are doing. But after this all process, if all this process is done, trust me, we'll be able to get it. Else, we'll get a funding, we'll fund the idea, but Ghanaians are not ready to even take the services of these good ones who've been trained. Because we've had Ghanaian engineers and all the others, we go for foreign ones too. Even government or government go for foreign. So if all these things is done, I'm very much sure we could have changes happening as in the coming days.
Right. Saeed, what I'm asking is, have you gone to the National Youth Authority? Have you walked to Pius Enamhajide's office? It's an agency set up to build youth capacity, youth development and all that. And say I am youth president, NUGS president or secretary, executive secretary, and we have put together a proposal. This is what we think, if you consider, would help the youth. Have you done any such thing as leaders, youth leaders, to ensure that you're also fighting for us from your point?
Okay, so one of the key significant things we've done since we assumed office has been to pay courtesy calls to the people who are in higher ranking offices, who can contribute their quota to us to be able to continue with our mandate to the Students' Fund. So just as President was saying, last week we were with Honorable Mr. Albert Kandapa, the Minister for National Security, and many others. We've sent a couple of letters to some ministries and some government agencies. Fortunately or unfortunately, we've had positive responses from some, and we've received negative responses or not getting any form of response from others too. Honorable Pius Hajida's NYA, I think I was there last week to submit a courtesy call. So we are hoping that in the coming days we will be able to connect and have an engagement with him. Same way we've also submitted to the Youth Employment Agency and a lot of ministries, Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. We submitted and we didn't hear anything from them. There are a lot of the ministries that we submitted. Ministry of Agriculture.
So you are out there trying to...
But it's quite unfortunate that on the part of our gatekeepers, some of them are not getting back to us because there are significant engagements that we would want to put on, because NUGS has an agricultural policy, an agro farm that we are trying to roll out, and we wanted to engage with the Ministry of Agriculture, but it's quite unfortunate we've not heard anything from them. And a couple of other ministries, not just the Ministry of Agriculture, whom haven't given us any form of feedback.
Right. It is our 67th Independence Day celebration. How would you assess Ghana's growth and development? 67 years as a young person in this country. Let me start with you.
All right. So I think 67 years in Ghana has seen a lot of improvement. I will just list them when it comes to even education. Through J.J. Rawlings, we introduced FQ, which brought about the free basic school education. Through the processes, we came up with free senior high school, which has absorbed a lot of numbers from our basic school, because we felt that to be able to change the fortunes of this country, we must hugely invest in education.
Right.
And now we're having almost 800,000, moving to almost 1.4 million students from basic school to just the senior high school. So the educational sector has also seen a lot of improvement, despite the hitches that comes with it, that in the coming days we'll still be pushing for improvement. The other one also has to do with healthcare.
Okay.
I think in the past years before Kufuor, probably if you find yourself sick, it becomes quite difficult even getting funds for your own healthcare. So we introduced the National Health Insurance, which at a point, 1 or 2 issues coming up, but it has also served the purpose in enrolling a lot of Ghanaians who have genuine issues with regards to their health and all that. I think we're also having...
is it working, do you think? Have you used... When's the last time you used your National Health Insurance card?
It's been a very long time. But we are looking at the strides from Kwame Nkrumah days to even now. Despite the challenges that comes with it.
It's a step forward.
Exactly. So, despite the challenges that comes with it, I think it's been quite okay from the time it was started till now. I think we do have a lot of issues confronting the National Health Insurance, but it has not really undermined its purpose of its establishment in those days. I think when it comes to our economic growth too, we've seen a lot of improvement with regards to our GDP, even those times from JJ's time to now.
Okay.
Though for the past 8 years, for the past, let's say 12 years, we've been having a dwindling GDP. But from the days of independence till now, I think we've had 1 or 2 improvements despite the hitches that comes with it. I think we've also had a lot of infrastructural development. In the past days, we didn't have a lot of infrastructure. Various parties, NPP, NDC, and all that government have been trying to do their best in putting up infrastructure. Now we have a lot of, even now we have TVET schools we are bringing up, we have senior high schools, the E-blocks and all these kind of things sprouting out. Funding most of our universities, Kumasi Technical University, former UDS, all came from these funds that now has been capped. So now it has put in a halt on all infrastructure development when it comes to education that we are still pushing for. In the coming days, there may be another picketing or quote-unquote a demonstration on why GET-FUND should be uncapped. If GET-FUND is not uncapped, then there will be no essence even leading the student front, because GET-FUND is the main pivot that feeds all the branches of education.
Who are
in our
going on
country.
this demonstration?
Students in this particular country will be going on this demonstration or picketing. We are still in the planning stage. First of all, before we get there, we would have to do a lot of stakeholder engagement to see the practical steps that are being put in place to uncap GET-FUND.
Are you the one leading this charge?
I'm the one leading the charge.
Okay. If
GET-FUND is not uncapped, it will not rest as student in this particular country. So that's one of the key things we are also looking at, because now, when I wake up each and every morning, my nurses are calling me, my teacher trainees are calling me, my students are calling me. Just last year, almost 6,000 students from KNUST and University of Education, Winneba, nearly deferred their program because Student Loan Trust Fund was not able to pay them. And now when you get to any serious country in the world, one of the key places they don't joke with is their loan system. But when it comes to Ghana here, the amount of money the Student Loan Trust Fund is getting, it's not more than 50 million cedis. Meanwhile, each and every year, the Loan Trust Fund is supposed to pay more than 50 plus million. And the allocation is just 15. How then will you even be able to pay the student who depend solely on this loan trust fund? So in the coming days, all these things put together will be looked at. Lastly, we are looking at how we've studied that amidst the huge numbers that goes into free senior high school, it's just a few or just a quarter of them that are able to move from the senior high schools to even the tertiary institutions. So we are proposing that in the coming days we will start printing a proposal to the Minister of Education. If teacher trainees, all the 46 plus teacher trainees could now be made full university, be autonomous. Now no teacher trainees should be affiliated to any university. Now we call them tertiary institutions. They should be autonomous. As they are reading their teacher training programs, the teacher training institution can be reading political science. A teacher training institution can be reading entrepreneurship. A teacher training institution can be reading chemistry, biology, what have you. And they'll be reading that so that to be able to accommodate most of our numbers. Since we say education indeed is the main agent that is going to cause the metamorphosis we want to see in our country, then we should be having all teacher trainees being autonomous. Okay. One last thing. Okay. You see, most of our teacher trainees now, they don't, when you write exams, you won't see your results till, let's say, level 300 because of the affiliation. If this autonomy is done, it will help in the tranquility of our academic ecosystem, just like the universities are also having. So if all these things put together are done, I'm pretty much sure in our educational sector, as we are even celebrating our 67 years of independence this year, we'll be able to change the narrative.
Right. I'll come to you, Saeed, for your own assessments. And although you've said, you've touched on economy, infrastructure, education, health, and although I have my own reservations, those are your assessments. So let's put a number to it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Ghana's economy, first of all? How are we doing economically on a scale of 1 to 10, according to your assessment?
I'll give us 6.
6?
Yeah.
That's generous. Education?
Education, I'll give us, I'll give 7.
Health?
Health, I'll give 5.
Okay. Yeah. Infrastructure?
Infrastructure, I'll give 6.
And overall?
Overall, I'll give 7.
7. Ghana is performing well by 70%, according to you. That's interesting.
We are.
Let me come to Saeed. Saeed, it's time for you to do your own assessment, and then we can wrap up.
Sure. So
how do you assess this country as a young person living in this country, 67 years on after independence?
Thank you very much. By every strand of imagination, I believe that Ghana's independence is a mixed feeling. Okay. Because when Nkrumah stood on that podium at the Independence Square and declared our independence, I didn't think 67 years on he envisioned this Ghana. I do not think that all the freedom fighters that are big sis prior to their fight envisioned that 67 years down the line, this is going to be us. Just as Nkrumah would say, he believes that as Africans, there has to be an African solution to our problems. And 67 years down the line, I don't think Ghana has seen that. Going forward, I think that there could be more that should be done in different facets, just as President has said. But regardless, my only reservation would be for our security and intelligence, because that has been an area that Ghana hasn't fallen short. When you look at the West African states, the coastal states, for instance, the states are along the coast. Ghana is one of the states that have been able to maintain our sovereignty and our border security. And for that, I would commend the security agencies and the armed forces in general. Beyond that, I believe that all the other agencies have more to do, and that we never envisioned, our forefathers never envisioned this Ghana for us, and that we should be able to do more.
Right. Let's put a number to it too. Sure. In terms of security, how would you rate Ghana's
security? I'll give them a 9. Maybe internal security, there are glitches in our internal.
You guys are very generous in your story. Wow. Okay. Nobody should ask me, because I'm sure I'll go all the way down there. Okay, education?
Education, 6.
6. Health?
5.
Same as you did. What's the other thing? Infrastructure?
Infrastructure, 6.
Economy?
3.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. It's been an insightful conversation with the president of NUGS, Cherima Opong Daniel. Cherime Opong Daniel. Cherime, president of NUGS, and Nazir Saeed Mohammed, executive secretary of NUGS, joining me for this conversation. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
Right.